brothers and sisters, we've all turned up the radio to hear Brother Jimmy Lakey, from coast to coast and shore to shore. Now raise your voice. Oh, let us all Jimmy Lakey, get out of bed. Jimmy Lakey, raise your voice. Jimmy Lakey, Lakey, hey, can't live without it with Jimmy Lakey. Jimmy Lakey.
Well, top of the morning to everybody. Nice to have you here. That would be me, the one the choir is singing about so graciously and on cue, and good to have them singing. Instagram problems this morning. That's okay. If you're usually on the Instagram, I always tell you have a backup. I don't think it was Instagram as much. I'm not going to blame the Instagram. I'm going to blame my own computers is what I'm going to do here. So anyway, good to have all of you here on the program. I want to give you a warning that at any moment during this program, if we shine the camera on you and you're there with your mistress or your misters, please unleash them in case your spouse sees it. We have the kiss cam going this morning, and I don't want any of you getting caught in adultery, okay? So everybody be careful out there. Be very, very careful today as you snuggle up next to the one that you're not married to. So be very, very careful. Hey, I got a question for you. You've seen all the memes of the Coldplay concert in Massachusetts, where the Astronomer CEO, which is a tech company, not about astronomy, but about technology, he had to, I guess, finally resigned over the weekend. His HR person or his people person also under scrutiny, and evidently some houses and marriages are probably going to be on the brink here. Let me ask you, here we witnessed in live fantastic fashion a kiss cam gone wrong at a Coldplay concert. And everybody's gone crazy. All the memes that have been popping up. I saw Vladimir Putin being held by Zelensky. I've seen Wilman Fred Flintstone. I mean, I've seen all sorts of memes. I've seen Hillary Clinton. Well, nobody wants to snuggle with Hillary. I've seen Bill with Monica. Everybody's doing the Photoshop thing to change these things up. And anymore, we don't even say Photoshop. We're just doing the AI renditions. What is it that has captivated America that this is such a huge story? I really mean that. Everybody's passing jokes. I was sitting with a friend yesterday who was we were smoking cigars together, and he was doom scrolling his phone, playing a video or something, and he looked and he goes, "You see this one?" And he kept showing me these AI generated or Photoshop generated images of people reenacting the Coldplay kiss cam. I even saw some of the mascots. Some of the baseball teams were redoing it. I mean, it's become a national phenomenon, kind of a national pastime to make fun and or recreate the kiss cam saga at the Coldplay concert. So my beginning question is, I'm sure you were watching and seeing the same thing over the weekend, probably sharing and probably liking some of these. Why did the kiss cam couple become such big news is our question of the day. Why did that video? Why is everybody so fascinated by this? And is it the agony of defeat? Is it the look on the face? I mean, obviously you can go through and say they could have handled this better, more subtle here. And but I'm just asking a question. Why is it, in your opinions out there? This is your question of the day. So I want some answers of the day. Why do you think the kiss cam couple has become such big news? And so many people are fascinated by the topic. That's the question of the day. Love to get your take on it. What do you think is the joy of this thing? I had one person kind of well-meaning say, "Stop posting this. You're spreading gossip." I don't know if that's gossip. I think we're just spreading a video that's out there, but they were very sanctimonious about, "Don't watch this, it's gossipy." Are we delighting in the downfall of someone? A marriage has probably fallen apart. Definitely a relationship has become strained, at least, if not divorce court in the hallway there. So why is it that we have become so fascinated by this couple? I just have a question. What is it about our culture that is, I guess, celebrating the? Are we celebrating the affair? Are we celebrating the stupidity of this couple for being so? I just don't know. It's a lot of speculation. I want to get your thoughts. Why is it that you and I have become so fascinated with the kiss cam couple, and why has it become such big news? I'm thinking of other things that have taken the nation virally. About a year or so ago, there was the Haktua girl. Anybody remember the Haktua girl? She was talking about an act of let's say intimacy, and she put the phrase Haktua out there on the phrase. So, but that was just her being silly. That was not the downfall of a marriage. That was her. She parlayed that into a lot of money, and she got a couple of advances and some endorsement deals out of that. So I'm just asking the question for you. That why is it that has become a big deal? All right, we'll talk more about that. Everybody give me your thoughts on that, because Bernie was not available to model mittens again. Yeah. Oh, so Jim says that's Jim's response, because remember the first Trump inauguration, Bernie was sitting there all grumpy and he had his mittens on and everybody did the Photoshop and the AI. And I get it. We've had things like that, the Haktua, the Bernie mittens. All these things have captivated our attention, but this is real human tragedy. This is a marriage probably going at least a lot of counseling, at least a lot of therapy. These are kids that have been devastated. I mean, I'm not saying it's not funny. I'm just asking, why do you think the kiss cam might have been a way to for us to just focus on it all weekend, and why has it become such a funny thing for everybody? Republican, Democrat, right, left, center, indifferent. Why is it? Ray says the kiss cam might be used to distract us from the everyday garbage we call social media and legacy media. Yes, we all found some solace and some humor in it, but the question becomes, why is it so humorous? Now, you ever watch that show, America's Funniest Home Videos, and then there's a couple of other versions of it that are more rough and graphic. But basically, it's people wiping out on skateboards, people walking into walls, people facing some kind of a mild injury, and yet we laugh at someone when they fall, and people actually submit their own videos. But this is a little different than submitting your own foolish video of you falling into the swimming pool. This is a marriage on the brink, and I'm just questioning, why is it that we have become so fascinated? And is anybody out there going, gosh, anybody think of the children? None of us are thinking of the kids. None of us are thinking about the dissed spouses or whatever. We're just think it was amazing. So anyway, there's your question of the day. Why did the kiss cam, and why has the kiss cam couple become such a big news deal in America? All right, what else do we want to do? Oh, Tulsi Gabbard. Bring in the receipts here. This is a big story I want to get to and dive in throughout the course of the morning. Tulsi Gabbard has said, hey, Obama, you got some handcuffs. Do you want us to bring them to you, or should you bring your own? This big Mike cavity for you, because Tulsi Gabbard says, hey, all this Russia thing. Remember Adam Schiff and these little dweeby Democrats out there? We have real evidence that there was collusion with Russia. Turns out there was no evidence at all. Turns out that it was an intelligence operation by the Obama administration, and Tulsi Gabbard has dropped the receipts on the Obama administration, and she says there's more to come. Listen to this. This could be one of the, I think we say this often, but this is another scandalous action that we're finding out that our government has been involved in, and this was another intelligence operation. And this is why you got to keep focusing on this stuff until they tell us we can't, and then you keep focusing anyway. That we learned after 60 years that the JFK assassination was intelligence and military intelligence and PSYOP operation by the U.S. government, CIA. And then you still have questions about the Butler, Pennsylvania shooting at Donald Trump and the attempted assassination. And now Tulsi says, hey, by the way, before you think that the intelligence agencies are not doing nasty things, look at what's happening here. And Tulsi drops the receipts, and I'm going to play some audio and video of Tulsi being on the Maria Bartiromo show yesterday on the Fox News channel. But Tulsi comes out and says, hey, we have a real issue here that once Donald Trump had won, there was a lot of allegation, Russia, and the intelligence agencies were saying, yeah, there's no evidence of Russian collusion. And Barry Obama himself and his administration said, hey, you know what? Why don't you go back and redo that report? And because it doesn't say anything about Russia. And they crafted the Russia story. It was crafted that they could say, oh, look, it came out in an intelligence report, but it was never there. There were whistleblowers at the time, and more whistleblowers are coming out this week that are going to say, yeah, we wondered. Some people were unassigned to the case because they were saying, why are we changing this again? There is no evidence here. There was evidence only in the fact fact that Barack Obama, James Comey, Brennan, and the intelligence anchors and anchors of these agencies had all colluded together to create a Russia narrative and draw a doubt on President Trump's first administration. And hopefully they were hoping to drive him from office with an impeachment and or just disgraceful, he would go away. So the Tulsi, as we said, has brought the receipts on the Obama administration. And I guess another question of the day, besides the kiss cam, is what do you think will happen and what do you think should happen? Will anybody be held accountable? Now, is anybody expecting Barry Hussein Obama himself, the traitorous, treasonous former president that he is? Is anybody expecting him to be perp walked? I don't know. It seems as if all these receipts are true, that there's a perp walk in his future, but I would doubt in America we'd see that. Now, Brennan and Comey are already under investigation by the Department of Justice, but it is quite damning what we're seeing has happened in that former administration. And it's not Russia. It's Barry Hussein. Obama was prolific and part of the coup attempt on Donald J. Trump. Rich says, from the chat room, he says, I wish we would have wisdom agencies instead of intelligence agencies. I'm not seeing intelligence in any of these agencies. Well, I'm seeing a lot of nefarious actions, Rich, a lot of nefarious behavior out there. And the question becomes, what is it that is going to happen to any of these people? This is, if you missed it, here's kind of the background story. Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence, she comes out last week and she says, hey, here we have evidence that the previous administration to Donald Trump, that would be Barry Hussein Obama, he and his intelligence chiefs knew that this Russia story was fake. They knew that it had been created by the Hillary Clinton campaign, but they decided to run with it anyway. And at the very least, there's evidence that James Comey, I mean, it's video evidence that James Comey said, there's no fuzz left on this thing. It's real true here. It's real true. He lied to Congress because there's now signed documents and or memos and or emails that James Comey knew he was lying to Congress. So it seems as if there should be a criminal referral to James Comey. And of all the people in this cabal that I can think of that in the past many years have been a pain in the patootie, of all the people that might want to see perp walked, maybe James Comey would be that person. Now, somebody said you can't file charges against the previous administration. You can't go after Barry Hussein Obama. That would cause civil unrest. That's a former president. The same people that are squawking that are the same people that did not seem to mind all the charges that were brought against Donald J. Trump. Now, do I like the fact that we're getting into an area where it looks like you're going to have to criminally investigate your predecessor? I don't like that at all, but it is what it is. And if they did collude to conspire to have a coup attempt, is what you would have to call this, against Donald Trump in his first term, then somebody needs to be held accountable. Here it is, still says Tulsi Gabbard on with Maria Bartiromo. And she was asked the question after a long setup. Tulsi was asked, what was the biggest amount of evidence you've seen? What's the biggest smoking gun? What are we looking at? And this was the answer yesterday morning for those of you that did not see it.
Maria, the implications of this are frankly nothing short of historic. Over 100 documents that we released on Friday really detail and provide evidence of how this treasonous conspiracy was directed by President Obama just weeks before he was due to leave office, after President Trump had already gotten elected. This is not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is an issue that is so serious it should concern every single American, because it has to do with the integrity of our democratic republic. What we saw occur here, as the documents we released detailed, was that we had a sitting president of the United States and his cabinet and leadership team, quite frankly, who were not happy with the fact that President Trump had won the election, that the American people had chosen Donald J. Trump to be the next president, commander-in-chief of the United States. And so they decided that they would do everything possible to try to undermine his ability to do what voters tasked President Trump to do. So creating this piece of manufactured intelligence that claims that Russia had helped Donald Trump get elected, contradicted every other assessment that had been made previously in the months leading up to the election that said exactly the opposite, that Russia had neither the intent nor the capability to try to, quote unquote, hack the United States election for the presidency of the United States. So the effect of what President Obama and his senior national security team did was subvert the will of the American people, undermining our democratic republic, and enacting what would be essentially a years-long coup against President Trump, who was duly elected by the American people.
Yeah. Now, I want to go back to something Devin Nunes said, which is exactly what you're saying right now. And he said, after all of our investigation, we found that there was no intelligence. There was no intelligence actually indicating that Trump colluded with Russia. And what happened? Because there was a presidential daily briefing that was presented to President Obama every day. And every day it said the same thing. We have no evidence of collusion. We have no evidence that Russia did this with Donald Trump. So what happened? How did they actually get the public to believe, and half the public believed, that actually Trump did collude?
Well, this is the thing, Maria, when you look at the assessments that were made, not just by one element of the intelligence community, but in my role as the Director of National Intelligence, I oversee 18 different intelligence community elements. And in the months leading up to the November 2016 election, the intelligence community agreed that there was no intelligence that reflected that Russia was trying to hack the election in favor of either candidate. The evidence showed, the intelligence showed that, again, Russia did not have either the intent nor the capability to be able to impact the outcome of the United States election. So it was very striking when we look back again at the documents that I declassified and released that shows there was a shift in early December, the first week of December. Again, another document was produced by the intelligence community, a president's daily brief that was consistent with every other assessment that was done previously leading up to the election. Russia did not, this is after the election now, did not attempt to affect the outcome of the American election. That was never published. Hours before it would have gone into President Obama's President's Daily Brief, it was pulled by a senior level intelligence official saying that they had to pull it because they had received new guidance. The very next day, this meeting was called, a National Security Council meeting, bringing together all of the senior leaders of President Obama's cabinet, and the topic that was put forward was a sensitive matter. The tasks that came out of that meeting was coming from President Obama directing the intelligence community, then Obama's ODNI director Clapper, to produce a document, to produce an intelligence assessment that detailed not if, but how Moscow affected the outcome of the election that had already occurred, electing Donald Trump to the presidency. This document that they published in January of 2017 was the foundational groundwork that they continued to reference over and over and over again to enact this years-long coup against President Trump.
Hey, there we go. All right, we'll stop that for just a moment. That was yesterday morning with Maria Bartiromo on Fox. And Tulsi Gabbard says there's more documents coming out this week. The question becomes for all of us is there anybody going to be held accountable? Anybody going to be punished? Is there anybody going to maybe be perp-walked because of this? James Comey, we do know, they played it all weekend, lied before the hallowed halls of Congress, lied about whether or not there was collusion. He testified there's no doubt that Russia was really involved in our election. And yet the intelligence reports that he was seeing behind the scenes said the exact opposite of that. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the secondary question of the day. Will anybody be held accountable, and who should be held accountable? Someone posted in the chat room a moment ago, the left will riot if Obama is charged. Well, the left doesn't mind. The left will riot if an illegal murdering, child molesting rapist is deported. So it doesn't take much for the left to start rioting out there. The left, again, if you deport a child molester, Chomo, the left will riot about that. So the left is always looking for something to riot for, especially when you got guys like Soros that are funding the protesters and handing out money for people to go out and do riots. Rent a riot is a real thing on the Democrat side, the left side of America. All right, I want to get your thoughts on this because it's some pretty serious stuff. I did have one question, and if I were Maria Bartiromo, I would have asked Tulsi Gabbard this one question. Why is it that you dropped these files and this information on Friday? Any of those of us who have been in PR and or government and or politics and or any kind of a news handler, you have to know that anything that happens on Friday is stuff that you kind of hope to get after. When it happens after a certain time on Friday, you're hoping it doesn't get maximum attention. And so I did find it rather peculiar, and I don't have the answer to this, but it does cause me to be a little bit skeptical. I do wonder what it is that has caused Tulsi and the DNI and her department to release this on a Friday. Friday is the time that you release things that you want to be buried. And yet it seems as if Tulsi wants this to be a big news story. And so maybe somebody needs to guide Tulsi as to how to make a big splash. And releasing documents and information, bombshells on a Friday, is usually a bombshell that you hope to get buried, not one that you want to circulate, percolate, and be promulgated across the airwaves. It's not going to happen. So your thoughts on that? And I don't have the answer to that. That raised an eyebrow to me. Now, maybe the people handling the Tulsi PR and this DNI PR, the same idiots that were handling the Jeffrey Epstein PR, and they need somebody running the media ship there. I don't know what the case may be, but they've dropped the receipts, but they did it on a Friday, and I got real questions about why they did it on a Friday. That, to me, doesn't make any sense, but it is a big story, and supposedly it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and Tulsi Gabbard dropped it all yesterday. Let's play a little bit more of this Fox News interview. Maria Bartiromo, Tulsi Gabbard. Maria's going to ask a follow-up question, and Tulsi's going to continue to talk about what they have, but there's and I mean that sincerely, I find it interesting that they dropped this on Friday. Either they dropped it on Friday because they just kind of wanted to say they did it and wanted to go away, or the people running the intelligence agencies' media campaign are idiots because, dropping anything on a Friday is where you want stories to go to die. So let's throw that out there. One more follow-up question. Here we go. This is Maria Bartiromo and Tulsi Gabbard on Sunday's show yesterday.
Now, I know that Devin Nunes came out with the Nunes report and a lot of other reports after that to indicate everything that you're saying. And I guess the worst of the reports, the real evidence, is the reports of most recent, right? The last reports are the worst reports that we're going to see. And I understand that there is more, perhaps, that you are going to come out with next week. And I was told that that's why they raided Mar-a-Lago, that they wanted to find the Trump-Russia documents that indicated there was absolutely no collusion and that there was no evidence to even start such an investigation. But Trump didn't have it there in Mar-a-Lago, but that's why they raided his house in 2022. Is that correct?
I don't have the details on the specifics of the Mar-a-Lago raid itself. Those are within the possession of the FBI. But there's no question in my mind that this intelligence community assessment that President Obama ordered be published, which contained a manufactured intelligence document. It's worse than even politicization of intelligence. It was manufactured intelligence that sought to achieve President Obama and his team's objective, which was undermining President Trump's presidency and subverting the will of the American people. So yes, next week we will be releasing more detailed information about how exactly this took place and the extent to which this information was sought to be hidden from the American people, hidden from officials who would be in a position to do something about it. And that's really the point here that I think is most important, Maria, and you said it in your opening. Accountability is essential for the future of our country, for the American people to have any sense of trust in the integrity of our democratic republic. Accountability, action, prosecution, indictments for those who are responsible for trying to steal our democracy is essential for us to make sure that this never happens to our country again.
Yeah. And I want to get to that right now because I've heard talk of a criminal referral. Are you referring this in a criminal matter?
We are referring all of the documents that we have uncovered to the Department of Justice and the FBI for a criminal referral.
Yeah. And do you believe that we will see prosecutions? I mean, our audience wants to know where this story goes from here. Will we ever see anyone held accountable for this incredible lie on the American people?
I will do all that I can, and we have whistleblowers, actually, Maria, coming forward now after we release these documents, because there are people who were around, who were working within the intelligence community at this time, who were so disgusted by what happened. We're starting to see some of them come out of the woodwork here because they, too, like you and I and the American people, want to see justice delivered. So we're going to provide everything that we have, everything that we will continue to gather to the Department of Justice for that direct intent and that direct purpose. There must be indictments, those responsible, no matter how powerful they are and were at that time, no matter who was involved in creating this treasonous conspiracy against the American people, they all must be held accountable.
There you have it. That was yesterday. Maria Bartiromo on the Fox News Channel. There's Tulsi Gabbard bringing the receipts against Barry Hussein Obama and his intelligence agencies. Now, who's going to be prosecuted? Which judge will actually let this? I mean, the judge will probably say, hey, you know what? You didn't do anything wrong. Run along. I don't know. A lot of non-faith on my part on our Justice Department and our justice system, but it's a smoking gun, the receipts that she has dropped, and the question is going to be, what shall become of it? Barry was evidently in it. Comey, Brennan, the whole upper echelon of the Obama administration and the intelligence departments there. And it's all documented now, and more information coming out. And some more whistleblowers are coming out this week as well. So hold on to your hats, my friends. Just when you think it couldn't get more interesting in America, I think it's about to get a lot more interesting. Remember, we always said that anytime a Democrat, a liberal, is calling you names and telling you something, what they're usually calling you is the very thing that they're guilty of. And what did they say about Donald Trump? He's a threat to democracy. He's a threat to democracy. Hey, all of you libtard folks that love the Obama administration and you love James Comey, isn't this a threat to democracy if you have a president and an intelligence community faking documents and causing intelligence documents to, quote, say something that they actually don't say so that you can discredit your political opponent and the one who has triumphed over you in the election? Isn't that being a threat to democracy? Barry Hussein Obama is a threat to democracy. There's no doubt about it. This is the smoking gun that many of us have wondered about. We all know that Big Mike is probably a threat to democracy. His spousal unit. I mean, there's nothing more evident than what you're going to see here in the next few days and what you see over the weekend. Still not sure why they release this on a Friday. That's when stories get released that you want to go away. So I thought that was peculiar, but I have to say that there's evidence here, smoking gun. The receipts are on the table about the threat to democracy that was happening, and it wasn't on behalf of Russia, and it wasn't on behalf of Donald John Trump. It was on behalf of Barry Hussein Obama. And I have to ask you this, that what's going to happen and who shall be held accountable. I don't know if anybody will be, but somebody should be. And I agree with Tulsi Gabbard on this one wholeheartedly, that no matter how high up you were, how influential you were and or you are, accountability must come. Now, it will be the first time in a long time that anybody on the American left has really been held accountable, but maybe we're going to get to that point where accountability is coming. I don't know, but we shall see. Somebody messaged me yesterday and said, could this be wrapped up into that special investigation about a grand conspiracy? I am not sure if they tie in together, but the grand conspiracy does allow for there to be a investigation that overlaps some of the statutes of limitations. So watch it. Keep a sharp eye on it. And again, I'm still trying to figure out, Tulsi, whoever's running your media department, you might need to hire me because, first of all, the whole administration seems to not have a freaking clue about how to control the news cycle. Number one, you had this boneheaded jackwagon, jackass type response about the Epstein Foundation. That was a distraction, and it didn't need to be be as horribly handled as it would with the Epstein files. And now you have this this dropping on a Friday. Again, I know the legacy, the mainstream media is probably not going to cover this very much, but still, you don't release stuff on a Friday unless you hope the story goes away. So I don't understand that. So to anybody in the Trump administration, at the DNI, at the DOJ, if you guys need a media consultant, I work cheaper than anybody you ever paid for USAID. I work cheap. And I'll help you get your hearts right, because you guys are cluster effing this thing up by at least on how you spin and how you communicate a narrative. So whoever's running the media campaign for the Trump White House, stop it. You suck at it. Okay? You suck at it. I'm saying it. Whoever's running Tulsi's media campaign, I agree with the message, but you got to figure out how to get it out there. And you guys need to stop sucking so bad. Okay? Stop the suck, would you? America's on the brink, and we need some responses, and we need this to get covered. And if you'd stop sucking it up, people would hear about this a little bit more. Jimmy Ray says, do you believe the legacy media will admit that they got the Russian collusion story wrong and apologize to Trump? I'm not going to hold my breath, Ray, because I would turn blue and it would not be a pleasant video scene for you to see. I would not hold your breath that the legacy media will admit anything that their propaganda is for the American left. I don't hold your breath on that. But hey, Tulsi, your media department, stop the suck, would you? You don't put this stuff out on a Friday. You put it out on Monday. And you're going to have a better chance of the legacy media, who's going to stonewall you anyway, have a better chance of getting this out. All right, let me bring you my first guest of the morning. Going to switch gears just a little bit, if we may. Mr. Keith Gross is in the green room waiting patiently for me to jump over to him, and I shall do that right now. Let me give you a little background, if I may. Keith Gross is a legal analyst, former... I got to get my computer screen where I can actually see something, including wanting to see Mr. Gross. Keith is a legal analyst, former assistant state attorney and prosecutor for the state of Florida, served in the Montana National Guard. He's author of a book called Dirt Roads to Runways, Defending the American Dream for the Next Generation. Mr. Keith Gross joins me back. I don't know if he's been on the stream show. He's back on the radio show. But Keith, welcome back in, sir.
Thanks for having me. Good to be with you.
Glad to have you here. A couple of stories as a man with a legal background. I want to get your take on just what I was just talking about. These receipts, if you will, that have been dropped about the Obama administration. And it looks like they're going to make some criminal referrals that there was some kind of a collusion, that they were making up the whole Russia. That's not the original topic that I brought you on here. But as a former assistant state attorney and prosecutor for the state of Florida, I'm sure you're watching this. Is anybody actually going to be prosecuted?
I sure hope so. I mean, it looks like the investigation's really just resuming now under Tulsi's leadership. This was sort of a continuation of an investigation that started right at the end of Trump's first term. You know, you remember you had Rick Grinnell and Kash Patel over at the DNI, and they were starting to uncover some of these Crossfire Hurricane documents. President Trump tried to declassify them on his way out of office. And ultimately, I think that's one of the large drivers of the unprecedented raid on his residence at Mar-a-Lago. It looked like the Biden administration was trying to claw back and maybe cover up some of this evidence. So now that Trump's back in charge and we've got Tulsi up there, seems like she's going through the files and trying to get to the bottom of what appears to be a seditious conspiracy.
It seems as if, and I've said this before, and others have said this, that anytime they're accusing you of doing something, it's usually what they're doing. Threat to democracy. Is there any greater threat to democracy than a former president that's supposed to be leaving office, now colluding to make sure he can at least sabotage the term of his successor? I mean, that is a threat to democracy of the like that I don't think I've ever seen or studied in American history.
Yeah, I think the only potentially greater one is what Obama did when he was still in office. I mean, he spied on the incoming presidential candidate. He was working with his friend who was running against Donald Trump back in that first campaign. And they planted sources, they made up intelligence. It's a pretty strange thing to use the power of the presidency and the United States intelligence apparatus to derail what appears to be the front runner for president.
For those of you listening to the later on, some of you are watching this live, but by the end of the day, thousands of people will hear and or see this show on all the podcast platforms. Don't forget Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart will be live audio only. So if you're just listening to the audio portion, you can't see the screen. Dirt Roads to Runways, Defending the American Dream for the Next Generation. My guest is Keith Gross, legal analyst, former assistant state attorney, and prosecutor for the state of Florida and served in the Montana National Guard. Keith Gross, again, the name of his book is called Dirt Roads to Runway. We'll talk about that here in just a moment. Keith, it seems as if that this previous administration, there's a lot of questions about the legality of what they did, including Biden's auto pen. He says he made all the decisions for 1,500 mass clemency. He did it. He was in charge. He just said, here's the parameters. There's just controversy as to whether that's what the auto pen was supposed to be used for. And is it, I guess, legal for a president to say, here's the boundaries. If someone's 6 foot above and blonde hair and weighs less than 180, you can pardon them. And that's kind of sounds like how he put the algorithm together for who could be signed for a clemency. But I don't think that's how it's supposed to work.
No, I don't think that's how it's supposed to work either. There's a lot of power vested in the president by our Constitution. And obviously one of those powers is the power to pardon. But in order to exercise that power, you have to do so knowingly. And, former President Biden acknowledged in a Fox interview recently that he didn't actually know the names and that he hadn't seen the names that were on some of these pardons. Well, you can't possibly consent to something if you're not even aware of the facts included. And so, whether we like it or not, it's something that the president can choose to do, to use some electronic signature machine, an auto pen, just like we use DocuSign in everyday business. But the key is it has to be something that the president himself knows and intentionally authorizes.
It seems as if now we have these legality issues from the Biden administration, the auto pen, the use of auto pen, all the scandals that are following the Biden administration. Now we have this new stuff coming up about the Obama administration. James Comer, Comey, not Comer. That's a good guy. Comey is under investigation. Brennan's under investigation. And what the mainstream media really wants to cover is whether alligator Alcatraz down in Florida is legal, or whether or not the use of these new military bases, I believe in Indiana and maybe New Jersey, that are also going to house as a detention center for illegals. The media doesn't want to focus on the smoking guns of the Biden administration and the Obama administration, but boy, they sure do get riled up if you try to house these illegals on a military base or alligator Alcatraz.
I mean, what's new? The Democrat Party sides with everyone except hardworking taxpayers in America. They want to send our money everywhere else. They want to invite illegals in. They want to do everything except uphold our Constitution and have the back of American citizens. That's why Donald Trump's in the White House right now. Most of us are tired of that.
We're tired of it. And I'm thinking of this case. It could be broad of referrals on this Obama situation. The problem is a lot of us, and you've been in the legal system for a while, a lot of us go, yeah, they could file charges, but there's probably going to be some judge that'll throw it out, some DC judge. We have a real problem with the judicial branch of our government. And I don't know if it's broken beyond repair. I'm not sure how to repair it. But from this Judge Boasberg up in the DC circuit to other places, we have real problems that a lot of folks say, okay, even with Pam Bondi out there, even with Tulsi Gabbard, if the judicial branch of government's not working in the way it should, then we're all screwed here.
We do have serious problems with the judicial branch on multiple levels. We're seeing a lack of judicial restraint recently, where judges are inserting themselves into situations and making decisions instead of doing what they're supposed to do, and saying that they simply lack the authority to constrain the constitutional powers of another branch. That's what we're seeing with all these restraining orders against Donald Trump's actions. And then when you look at the prosecutions that are being proposed, you're right. There will probably be some issue in the judicial branch with those prosecutions. But unless the Trump administration and the Trump DOJ brings those charges and starts to hold people accountable, we should expect this sort of nonsense to happen again. So we need to see accountability. Just because it's hard doesn't mean we shouldn't do it.
It's fascinating that we become so lawless. I'm watching this agent that was shot over the weekend in New York in the face by an illegal who had been released from jail 4 different times, arrested 4 different times, roaming the streets. And rather than calling ICE, they just released it because they were sanctuary states in New York, Massachusetts, etc. This guy was on a crime rampage. And for some reason, that lawlessness is just not reported by the media. The Democrat Party can't condemn it. It really just baffling to me that the thumbing of the rule of law seems to go out the window, and no one's above the law except all these illegals out there, and they can get released from jail anytime because whatever reason, they just get released. We have troubles here, Keith, and I am not exactly sure how we're going to fix it.
Me either. Charlie Kirk talks about the idea of suicidal empathy a lot. And that's exactly what you're talking about here. You're talking about a situation where the Democrat Party and the left has gone so far towards trying to have the back of the underdog and support those who they see as underprivileged, to the point where they want to turn a blind eye to criminals. They want to back up everyone who's here illegally, and they want to put American citizens last while still forcing us to pay the bills. It's unjust. It's not how our country's supposed to work. American tax dollars are supposed to go to help American citizens, and our laws are supposed to be uniformly enforced. I don't know why we don't get back to locking up any sort of politician, any leader of a state or city who outright says they refuse to enforce the law. Well, if you're not going to enforce the law, you need to be removed from office, because that means you're not going to uphold your oath of office.
Yeah. The voice of Keith Gross, legal analyst, former assistant state attorney and prosecutor for the state of Florida, served in the Montana National Guard. He's written a book called Dirt Roads to Runways, Defending the American Dream for the Next Generation. Keith, repeat that again, because many people listen to the program later as it becomes a podcast rather than the stream. So again, Keith Gross, Gross, Dirt Roads to Runways. Give the real thumbnail here of the book, Dirt Roads to Runways. I know it's your story, defending the American dream for the next generation.
Yeah, in short, it's a tale of my growing up in rural North Florida. And I grew up in a family that didn't have a lot, went on to found multiple national companies, sold them off, and I've lived the American dream. I had nothing, and I've had a great, very blessed business career thanks to the freedoms that make it happen in America. You know, these freedoms are being taken away by regulatory oversight, and I experienced that while growing businesses. And I'll tell you, I haven't met many people who are liberals who have tried to run a business, because when you realize that people don't want to work for a living, they want an unemployment check sometimes. When you realize that the government's going to tax you through the nose only to waste your money, you start to get really concerned about the direction of our country and how large our government is.
If folks want to follow you out there, keep up with your work, I know you can get the book anywhere fine books are sold. Dirt Roads to Runways by Keith Gross, Gross. Where do they also find you online, sir?
I'm on all social platforms, especially on X at Keith Gross FL. And I've got a website if you want to sign up for a newsletter at keithgross.com.
Keith, appreciate you hopping on the program. Good to see you. We'll have you back on in the future. Appreciate you jumping in here now. Keith Gross, and again, Dirt Roads to Runways. Pick up a copy of it, and you saw his Twitter or X handle flash across the screen a moment ago. Keith Gross FL, and also his website is all linked up there as well. All right, ladies and gentlemen, glad to have you here. Jimmy Lakey is my name. Pleasure, pleased, and thrilled to be here with you. I hope you feel the same way about being here with me. It is a 21st day of July, year of our Lord 2025, Monday. And there's no conspiracy in that. It's not like Russia. It's a real deal. It's really a deal. All right. I want to remind you real quick about Sherry Cree, homeswithsherry.com, before we go to our next guest. Sherry's just a fantastic addition to our program because she really can take care of your real estate needs in a way with a perspective that other people don't. It's not just about the transaction, the sign in the yard. It's really about the big picture for your real estate career and your real estate path forward. What is that path forward that you have? Is this your first home? Is this your last home? Are you ready to downsize? Or are you trying to move neighborhoods? Sherry approaches all of those questions, and she's going to get you the right answers, but she also approaches all of those questions with the perspective that she wants to become your realtor for life. That's what she wants to be, is your realtor for life. She wants to earn that privilege, that right, that trust that you would give her to become your realtor for life. So she's going to approach it in a way that she's going to want to see what your big time goals are, your big term goals are, long-term goals. She wants to help you realize that real estate can be that thing that can create generational wealth for your family. You got to play it right. When your kids are ready to move out of the house and buy their own home, Sherry would like to, you say, hey, you got to call Sherry. She's always taking care of us. She comes with that perspective of taking care of you, not to just get a transaction today or this month or this year, but how can I serve this family so that later on they're going to call me and we're going to continue to walk down that journey together when it comes to real estate. Homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. Now, if you're not in her area, but you want to get a referral to somebody who can help in your area because maybe she doesn't know your town or your state or your city so well, reach out. She's got a referral service. Homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. And make sure you let her know that Jimmy Lakey is talking about her. homeswithsherry.com. Don't forget, if you're a veteran first responder, somebody served in the military, she will also take a dip off her commission. She will donate. She'll take a less commission. And for everybody out there, when she sells a home, buys, she gets her commission, she donates a portion of her commission to the charity of your choice. homeswithsherry.com. homeswithsherry.com. And you tell her that Jaime Lagos, Jimmy Lakey, is talking about her. Talking about her on the program. All right, ladies and gentlemen, he's been waiting patiently. He was scheduled at 8:30, then it's 8:45. Then they said he's ready to go, and I'm like, I can't be ready to go. Keith Gross is in here, ladies and gentlemen, from the John Gordon Show. He's with us last week. He joins us again this week. Mr. John Gordon, how are you, John?
Good, Jimmy. Happy Monday. We just had Keith Gross on The Truth last week. He was a great guest. I enjoyed his interview with you this morning.
A good guy, and Dirt Roads to Runways, a great book. I've read part of it. I did not. I think it's still in the studio. When I got shown the door of the iHeart Kingdom, I think the book is still in the studio there. So I got to get another copy of it. Let's talk here about the big bombshell story. And I raised this question earlier. I don't know why. And Tulsi, if you're listening, you need somebody to help you out here. You don't drop stories on a Friday that you want to be a big story. Why they dropped this story on Friday, which could be the bombshell of our lifetime, I have no clue. That seems to be a lot of dumbassery in my opinion. But give me your thoughts. Tulsi says Barry Obama and the top echelon of the administration, of his administration, they made up this whole Russian collusion thing. They made it up against the will of even the intelligence agencies.
Well, I totally agree that they need to be held accountable. I don't think they will be. I mean, if they are, it'll be a first. I think I would love to see it happen. As far as dropping it on Friday night, I think that's what you call a trial balloon. If it flops and they've got the weekend to rebound, but the American people are begging for exactly what she's promising. Pam Bondi promised it to us and then didn't deliver. Maybe Tulsi Gabbard will if she follows through, and there really is meaningful accountability for Obama and Brennan and Comey. And the thing I don't understand is, why is Clapper not on the list? How did he get a hall pass?
It's a great question. There's just so many. I'm sure there's another crime he committed. There's got to be something. These guys were dirty, is what we're finding out. That James Comey, wrapped in his air of sanctimony, these guys were dirty cops. I mean, really, honest to God, by definition, they were dirty cops. And I don't know if they're going to perp walk Barry Hussein Obama, but I wouldn't mind seeing the perp walk of of Comey. I mean, these guys dirty from the inside out.
Well, Comey is so ever sanctimonious. They fired his daughter just last week.
Yeah.
And it's believed that maybe the timing was not a coincidence. And so, for the former head of the FBI and he says, he just stumbled upon the rocks that said 8647. Really? You that shows you his level of naivete, that he thinks that he can sell that to the American people. And there was a really good YouTuber that did an expose on it. And Comey was sitting on the beach and you could see the bottom of his tennis shoes. Then he took a footprint from the rocks. It was James Comey's footprint. I mean, it's just beyond the pale, the lengths that he will go to. And the only thing he's doing, as far as I'm concerned, is digging himself a bigger hole. And he really does need to be punished for his bad deeds, in my opinion. And so does Obama, the biggest fraud ever perpetrated on America.
I mentioned this to Keith. I'm not sure if you were in the green room at the time. I said, the problem is we all kind of agree, these guys should be held accountable, and what's in their future could be some handcuffs, some courtroom time, etc. We all get that, but then we have a problem with the judiciary in America, that you're going to have judges that the same way they'll let an illegal walk right out of the courtroom and try to help him out of the courtroom to avoid ICE. We're going to have judges out there that would be hearing these cases that, rather than look at the law and how they broke the law, will look at their political affiliation. Our judiciary in this country is broken. And I asked Keith Gross this. I'll ask you, is there any hope here that we're going to actually get justice, not because Bondi or Tulsi doesn't bring it, but the judges stop it?
Well, I don't know what the solution is other than accountability for them too. If we started removing some federal judges who bring their own bias into cases, what about the judge who, in the case of the Perkins Coie lawyer that was prosecuted, and he allowed one of the son's parents who they played baseball with onto the jury. And he was, I think it was a hung jury. He was not acquitted, but he was not convicted, and he walked. That is a real time example of what you're talking about. And the judges are not voted in by anybody. They are all appointed, and they're appointed for life. It is very hard to get rid of a sitting judge, but I think that the Congress of the United States has to come to the party, and they have to start defunding and removing some federal judges. I mean, if they're following the facts and the law and we don't like it, well, that's tough. But if they're clearly stacking the deck and exceeding their authority and trying to usurp the authority of the president of the United States, I think at the least they should be removed from office.
Yeah. Again, if you're listening later on the podcast version of the show, that's John Gordon, The John Gordon Show. We'll talk about that here in just a moment. The Truth with John Gordon. Again, thousands of people hear this show by the end of the day because of the podcast and rewatching the streamcast. We appreciate you. But again, John Gordon Truth is his Twitter handle. John Gordon, Gordon Truth. That's his X handle, and that's his voice. We're going to talk some more with him in just a moment. So, John, we have a problem with the judiciary, and then we have Tulsi releasing these stories on a Friday, which baffles me because anybody in media knows Fridays when you release the crap that you hope that doesn't get any legs. We want this one to have legs. The bottom line is whether she released on a Friday or Monday, the media is not really going to run with this. They've been complicit in this thing. They've hidden this thing. They never did the investigation to find out that what Donald Trump and Devin Nunes were saying back in the day about the Russia hoax was actually true. They just believed hook, line, and sinker. We don't just have a judicial problem in America, but we have that media problem. How do we overcome that? How do we make it to where Americans actually see, okay, I'm not a big fan of the Donald J. Trump guy or whatever, but man, that's some dirty politics, some dirty pool being played by Obama and James Comey. How do we get the story out to where people see that this is bad for America, whether you're Republican or Democrat? This is bad for our country.
It's very simple. We just stop paying them. The federal government is paying the media, and they then write the story the way the government instructs them to. And I guess in most cases, that happens to be the deep state. But it's not Axios. Politico got $10 million in subscriptions from the federal government. Now, I don't know about in your house, but I get the Wall Street Journal, and anybody in my household is able and can read the paper. I mean, you'd think the federal government might think about doing that to share some subscriptions, but that's not the worst of it.
Yeah.
The worst of it is that they were paying $75,000 to $100,000 for subscriptions to Politico. The New York Times is on the take. The Cox Enterprises, one of the disenfranchised family members, said that the Cox organization has contracts with the Defense Department. This is a media and a car company, and they've got contracts with the Defense Department. Riddle me how that works. And so I couldn't figure it out for the longest time. Now we found out that Twitter was paid $3.5 million to cancel and censor people when they wouldn't write what the government instructed them to on the COVID pandemic and the vaccine. And so it is a bought and paid for media, in my view, and the federal government just needs to stop it. Why doesn't the Congress pass a law that says there must be several rungs of approval before you can pay any media company, and that it has to be a bipartisan agreement before they're going to engage in any kind of contract with people in the media? Otherwise, it's just a paid outlet for the spokesperson for the government, and that's wrong. That's Politburo stuff. That's what they do in Russia. That's not what they do here.
The voice of John Gordon, host of the syndicated radio show, The Truth with John Gordon. And we'll talk more about his show, how you can watch him, listen to him, and be a part of that program here in just a moment. We have another point of skepticism I want to run by you, and that is the fact that suddenly we hear that there's a criminal referral by Tulsi Gabbard and send it off to the Justice Department. And we hear that, we get excited and say, justice is on the way, And then it turns out that nothing ever becomes of that. We have this thing now that I guess Pam Bondi has asked the judge to please release the Epstein grand jury testimony, and everybody's, oh, here it comes, and then nothing ever happens. Sometimes I feel like we get played by feeling as if something's about to start to move, and it never moves, whether it's a criminal referral. That doesn't mean there's going to be prosecution. And just because the administration says, look at us, we've requested these files to be released, doesn't mean it's ever going to happen. Sometimes I feel like, John, we get played and they make us think that something's about to happen, but their butts are covered on by another department, by the things just not happening.
Well, my guess is that we might truly get some stuff out of the Epstein grand jury trials or hearings, and I think it will prove absolutely nothing. I think that whatever is in those transcripts is probably long since been in the public domain. I don't expect to glean anything from that. What we need to glean is the role of our own federal government in dealings with Epstein. That's all I care about. I don't care about the list. I mean, I do and I don't. I mean, where people have really, sexually assaulted children, I think that list is fair game. Other people that are on a list, what is the list? Is it people that were in his Rolodex? Is it people that flew on his plane? Are they people that they have in compromising positions? I mean, how do you define the list and what is it? My problem with the list is I think that it runs the potential of ruining perfectly innocent people's lives who may have known Epstein, i.e. Trump. I mean, there's no question that Trump and Epstein knew each other, but there's also no question that Trump went to his house in Palm Beach. He went onto the grounds. He saw young girls in the swimming pool and said, this feels creepy. I'm leaving. And it was shortly thereafter that he kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago, presumably for hitting on one of his friend's daughters. So, I mean, I think Trump is not, I think he is absolved. But what about somebody that is in that similar position? So they flew on a plane with him somewhere, but it wasn't Epstein Island. Are we really going to ruin that person's marriage and career and reputation just because he's on a list? I mean, I think that is a very reckless and dangerous place to go. I mean, look at what happened to Alan Dershowitz. He was falsely accused of having been a child abuser, and it was flagrantly false, and it cost him time, damage to his brand and reputation, and no telling how much money to absolve himself of any wrongdoing. I just think that there's got to be fairness all the way around. I'm not dying to see a list, but if others want to see the list, have at it. What I want to know is, what role did our own federal government play? And it may have been Mossad, but that nothing happened in this country to put people in a honeypot by Mossad that our own intelligence organizations weren't keenly aware of and either were enablers for or received maybe the information from Mossad. There's just no chance in my mind that Mossad would have come into our country and done that without our own government's knowledge and consent. So I want that stuff to stop. I really do.
You bring up a good point, and I think, again, this isn't, again, I'm a supporter of the administration, but they keep bungling some of these things up. The whole thing of Pam Bondi, it's on my desk, What's on your desk? Are you talking about the flight list? Are you talking about the Rolodex? Are you talking about the Chomo list? Because as you're right, there's a lot of lists. Just because you're on someone's contact list in their phone doesn't make you a co-conspirator with them.
That's right.
And we're using all this phrase, the list, and then Pam says she has the list. It does. The communication sometimes by this administration, by Pam Bondi and even Tulsi Gabbard, sometimes I'm like, they ought to hire you and me, John. We could go fix this thing and help them get their story straight, because it brings up a lot of false expectations because they did not communicate the expectations properly right up front.
Well, what it smacked to me is that Mike Pompeo is back. Remember how when he was head of the CIA, Trump was going to release the Kennedy files and Pompeo talked him out of it. Now, why would the head of the CIA go to the White House and talk the president out of releasing the JFK files? Let me think about that for a moment. And it just seemed to be deja vu all over again with the Epstein files and Pam Bondi. Oh, I'm going to release the files, they're on my desk, and then nothing happens. And it's like, oh, well, we looked at them and there's nothing there. Right. You did look at them, and what is there is incriminating to people in our own federal government, and you don't have the stomach to do it. And that's the problem that we have. And that's why the American people are demanding transparency, because we want to live in a moral country. And I listened to this YouTuber the other day who I really like. Julian Dory is his name. He's from New Jersey. He's a young kid. I think he's about 35 or 40 years old. The wealth of knowledge that this guy possesses is just incredible. But he had on an investigative journalist, and they were talking about how the U.S. is probably, our intelligence agency may have set up a honeypot with Epstein and done all this. And then they said, but the Israelis are doing this stuff. The Russians are doing it. The Chinese are doing it. The Iranians are doing it. So if we don't do it, their intelligence will be better than our intelligence, and we'll lose. I'm sorry. That is a rationalization. I've thought about it. I've prayed about it. I think you take the moral high ground and you follow the laws of our country. You follow the laws of God, and everything's going to be all right.
The voice of John Gordon on X. You can follow him at John Gordon Truth. We'll talk about the John Gordon show, The Truth of John Gordon. John, give me your prognostication in our final seconds here together. Is anything going to come of this? The Tulsi Gabbard revelations, the Epstein grand jury file. Is anything going to happen? Is this just all more fodder for news and conversation, but no one's ever going to be held accountable?
Absolutely nothing. Say it again.
Nothing.
I don't want that to be the outcome. I'm just a realist. Comey might do a perp walk. He might, because he has made Trump so mad, and he has behaved so badly, and he has broken so many laws. Comey, I think, probably does have a target on his back. I don't know about Brennan and Clapper, and my guess is that they know so many secrets. And like Hillary Clinton said, come and get me. But if you do, half of Washington's going to go down with me. I think that's why nothing's going to happen.
John Gordon, The Truth of John Gordon, a nationally syndicated radio show. John, if folks want to follow you online and or listen to your show, where do they go, sir?
Well, you're so kind to ask. You can go to johngordon.tv. All of our past episodes are there. We live stream every Saturday from noon to 2 on the John Fredericks Radio Network and on Getter, Rumble, X, YouTube, Facebook. And on johngordon.tv. So, and you can also email me at johngordontruth@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from our listeners and get whatever insights or critiques that you may have of what I espouse, because I frankly really do want to get it right. I am constantly searching my own brain and conscience for what is the right answer to these very important questions.
I know you've been a student of the JFK files and the assassination. You've talked about it with me before. Last question for you would be this. It seems like it's deja vu all over again. We find out that what we've kind of expected was military intelligence and CIA. That was a coup attempt. Now you have intelligence and a former president in a coup attempt. I mean, 60 years later, and we haven't solved the problems of the weaponization and or the dangerous behavior of our intelligence agencies from Kennedy to Trump. It just keeps on. It just keeps on going. It never stops.
I think that Trump has got a real axe to grind against the deep state. I think Tulsi Gabbard's Friday afternoon release was a trial balloon. I think they're taking it one step at a time. I think he has every intention of dismantling the deep state. Now, does that mean people are going to pay a price in the process? I don't know. That's where I get a little bit of disbelief, I guess, just because we've been disappointed so many times before. It's almost like if you work in government, you get a free pass. It doesn't matter what you do. That we're going to give you a free pass, because if we don't give you a free pass, you're going to come after us. But they did go after Trump with a vengeance. I think turnabout's fair play. I think he should dismantle the deep state. I hope that he can. And Tulsi Gabbard, she said she fights it every day of her life, and it's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
These people play for keeps, and they're dirty, and they'll stoop to known lows to get their way. And I just think in order for our country to assume the moral position of leading the world, not ruling the world. I don't want us to impose our rule on the world, but I do want to lead the world. And to be a leader, you have to have a moral fabric as your foundation.
Yeah. Well, I hope it's this deep state has been buried and hidden for 60 plus years. We know that it's the same deep state, the same operatives of the same alphabet soup agencies, and hopefully we can dig them out here real soon from your lips to God's ears. John Gordon Truth on the X, and again, the Truth of John Gordon radio program. Look it up, and you can find it. John, appreciate you hopping on here again. Thanks I know you bounced around on the time a little bit. Glad it all worked out.
It is my pleasure. It's just been a busy Monday morning. What can I tell you? But thank you so much for having me on, and I hope we didn't cause you too much inconvenience.
Oh, no, it's fine. It worked out. We had Keith, and it worked out good. So appreciate you. John Gordon, johngordon.tv, johngordon.tv if you want to follow watch his show and the daily show, the weekly show, the monthly show, the annual show, whatever you want to watch. John Gordon's got it. He'll take good care of you, and this nationally syndicated radio show on the weekends. All right, johngordon.tv. All right, glad to have all of you here on the radio program. We had this question of the day that a lot of you pontificated about this morning, and that is, what is it about the couple at the Coldplay concert that has so captivated everybody's attention? Why is this such a big deal? Are we being mean-spirited to laugh at the downfall of what probably is the end of a marriage? I just find it interesting that it has captivated the Americans' attention. Somebody brought up the comparison. It's probably a true comparison on some level, that it was the gift that keeps on giving, whether it's now we used to say Photoshop, and now we say AI generated. And remember Bernie Sanders back in 2016 with his mittens. Jim pointed that out earlier. Now are we gonna have these memes of the Coldplay concert happening over and over and over again for the next 15 years? But why has it captivated our attention? I would just like to have that question answered, and it obviously has. Despite what the internet has been suggesting all weekend, Coldplay says they take no glee in destroying any relationships or trying to make sure it never happens again. During their show Saturday in Madison, Chris Martin actually warned the audience because they did the kiss cam. So on Saturday after that, he said, listen, guys, it's the first show since they outed the tech CEO by the name of Andy Byron and his mistress. Chris Martin said, we'd like to say hello to some of you in the crowd. How we're going to do this is we're going to use our cameras and put some of you on the big screen. So please, if you haven't done your makeup, do your makeup now. The fan who posted the footage said that they didn't show any couples on the kiss cam on that night, the next night. And Byron has officially resigned from his company, which is called Astronomer. He still hasn't made a statement about the whole mess. There was a statement floating around, but that was fake and not from him. So gonna be interesting to see how that pans out in his private life. And I just fascinated, it's captivated our attention so much, and everybody's imitating it. But Chris Martin the next night said, hey, put the camera out there, and then they didn't show any couples at all that night. So there's it. All right, here's another story I have for you. We'll talk about this later in the week. 22% of Gen Zers say you're officially old at this age. Anybody remember when you were a kid, you thought, man, your parents were old, then you became like just out of college and you realized, I'm the same age my parents and I thought they were old. Gen Zers, if you describe somebody as old, what age would it be? Is that for some of us, that's someone in their 80s or 90s, someone in their 70s, someone in their 60s, even their 50s? Well, it depends on who you ask. A new survey asked people, what age do you think someone officially becomes old? 22% of Gen Zers say you are officially over the hill at the age of 35. That includes 6% who say you're old at 30. 3% say you're old at the age of 27. The oldest members of Gen Z are around 28. So maybe they're already having some of those gray hairs come in, and they're like, I don't know, I'm getting old. So what age is old to you? And I used to think that 40 was old, then I hit 40. Thought 50 was old, and then I hit 50. And I swear to God that, anything above me is old, but anything below me is, interesting. 35 years of age. Yeah, now you know why your kids and your grandkids think you're an old fart, is what they do. The Barstool Sports guy has a harsher take on the Stephen Colbert firing. Dave Portnoy isn't upset that CBS fired Stephen Colbert. They say it's just part of showbiz. His fellow night hosts, Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, are all out there kind of expressing their disappointment. But Dave Portnoy says he says, quote, Colbert makes $16 million a year. The Late Show with Colbert loses $40 to $50 million a year. They had a staff of more than 200 people. Late night ratings are down across the board. Buddy, you're losing $40 million a year, and then you have the arrogance to hammer your own company on national television. What do you think's going to happen with that, writes Portnoy? Of course they're going to fire you. I'd fire you in a blinking heartbeat, is what he said. And Colbert, he called the $16 million settlement with President Trump a big fat bribe. And you're losing $40 million on the show. You're going to get shown the door, you little jackwagon. I don't, and your ratings, by the way, sucked. And you know who expressed the most displeasure was Jimmy Kimmel. And you know who's someone that competes in the low ratings area with Colbert? Jimmy Kimmel. So I'm wondering which late night show is going to be the next to go, because that's a heck of a lot of money to be making for a show that sucks and no one watches. And you know that it's a bad show when the day that you are fired, rather than getting back to your comedic roots, you have Elizabeth Warren and Adam Schiff issuing tweets about how horrible it is. And whenever James Comey puts out his rocks and the seashells by the seashore, you have Comey on to talk about the beautiful seashores and the seashells. That's not what Johnny Carson would have done. And Stephen Colbert, he really deserves to have his ass kicked to the curb now. But what they probably have is a contract in which they got to pay him through the end of the contract. So they might as well make him do his shows through the end of his contract. That's why he's not shown the door immediately. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a pleasure to be here today. It's a Monday edition of the show. Can I give you an update? I'll give you a more further update tomorrow. But we have done so well. This little show, this little gathering that we gather together. I asked last week, I began asking for 30 people to do $175, a one-time gift. That is the class, that's the chair, the desk. That's all of our P5 or fifth grade classroom that we're expanding every year. We add a grade level. And also is textbooks and curriculum and chalkboards and supplies and all the stuff that we have to put into a classroom, especially for a classroom that's very poor. They can't send a list out to the parents and say, everybody bring 14 boxes of construction paper. It doesn't work that way. We stock it, and we figure for over the course of a semester, a school year, to get that classroom started from scratch, building the desk and building everything, is about $175 per child. So we asked for 30 people to do $175. Now, I didn't know how that was going to work. I really didn't know how that was going to work. But we're over the halfway point. We're not quite there yet. And I'm going to start, this week will be the last week for now that we mentioned that. There's always going to be something we're talking about with our school, Legacy Christian Academy. But listen, if you've had a few moments to think about it, you prayed about it, you just kind of forgot about it. If you have not made that donation, again, 30 people to do 175. Now, not everybody did 175. Some people did 25 and said, can you match it? Can you find someone else? Somebody did half. Listen, whatever amount you can do, just put for the desk for the kids, and we'll figure it out if it's coming in, and we're going to get there. But with all of the big donations, the small donations, we are over halfway to our goal, and we can still use some help this week. So if you haven't contributed, again, 30 people to do 175, that really helps us get this fifth grade class launched, and it's going to launch here in a matter of a couple of weeks. And I would appreciate you participating with us. Thank you to all of you who have. Last week we scrolled a lot of names across the bottom of the screen. Tomorrow we may do some more, but if you haven't donated, just go to riverspromise.org or riverspromise.com, and you will see opportunity to give on the donation page, and it's pretty clear. And if you have questions, just send us an email, and we'll make sure we handle it for you. Also, don't forget, coming up September the 5th is my golf tournament, annual Rivers Promise charity golf event. Used to be, when we first started, it was Jimmy Lakey's golf tournament, but we took my name off of it because it was really, Rivers Promise brand could stand alone and it didn't need me there. But Friday, September the 5th, would love to see you. Even if you're a sucky golfer, it's okay. You can come play, have fun with us. No one's a great golfer on this course because a lot of people are sauced. I'm just going to tell you. And another thing that you can do if you can't be there, if you'd like to be a sponsor, there's sponsorships from whole sponsorships to the title sponsorship is open this year. And we'd love to have you be a part of the golf tournament Friday, September the 5th in Colorado. Riverspromise.org has all the information, riverspromise.com or .org. Ladies and gentlemen, in my hand, I grab our little prop here. We don't make the money that Stephen Colbert makes, so we don't have a big fancy prop. We have a little globe, and we do what we call stolen memes. We don't even have a staff of 200 to make the memes, so we just steal them because, again, this is low budget, low rent, and we're not Stephen Colbert. But, hey, we're still on. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. We didn't ask if we had to help. This was just part of growing up right here. You ever had the chores? We had chores as a kid. You knew in Texas in the heart of the summer, you had to mow twice a week because the grass was going to keep growing. And you just knew you're going to have that lawn mowed. You didn't have to be told, hey, you need to mow the lawn. If you had to be told, there was probably a belt coming your way or some grounding or something happening. Yeah, unfortunately, we've gotten away from that. And our kids are sleeping in the basement when they're 25. Just sleeping down there, sleeping, and daddy's out mowing the lawn. Weird. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Here it is, the new costume for your Coldplay concert. You might want to start wearing that. It'll protect you from the rays of the sun, and it'll also keep you anonymous there if you're there with your little mistress or your misters. If you have if it's a lady, it's a mistress. What is it if it's a man? If you're a woman and you have a fling going on, if you're a man, she's your mistress, right? I don't know the word. I don't know what the ladies call their mistress. Unless you're lesbian, then you call her a mistress. Never mind. Round and around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Cowboy talking over the fence to his son. You see, son, these folks in Denver, they don't want to hear your opinion. They want to hear they want to hear their opinion coming out of your mouth. That's exactly what these liberals want out there. They don't want to hear our opinion. They just want to hear their opinion, and they want it coming out of our mouth. And unfortunately, some of us do not comply. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Meme says, breaking news. FBI Director Kash Patel breaks his silence over the Epstein controversy and discloses the complete files are in the sole possession of Jimmy Hoffa. Hoffa's got the files, my friends. We got to get see if we can get Geraldo Rivera to open the vault of somebody's vault and see if they're there. We'll find it. Ladies and gentlemen, let's see if we got any more of the meme machine. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Oh, here's another one. Little newspaper guy that says Donald Trump's just going to destroy democracy. I really hope he does. Democracy is just what North Korea is. We're a constitutional republic. He's going to threat to democracy. Well, we're not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic. And some of you are threats to the constitutional republic. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Somebody carrying a big pen. Oh, that's that comedian lady, right? With clown shoes there. She's carrying a big Kathy Griffin. That's Kathy Griffin. Big bottle of pills called Trump derangement syndrome. Take 10 pills a day. I'm not sure 10 pills would help some of these people. I think some of them just need to be sedated permanently. Put them in an induced coma until a couple of generations. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. Ladies and gentlemen, that means we have milked the meme machine dry. Thank you to everybody who have been a part of the program. It's Monday, the 21st day of July, year of our Lord 2025. Pleasure to have you here. Or Lois says in Colorado this week will be hard to be hit and miss to watch the live. On here late today. Sounds like I missed a lot. Anxious to listen from the beginning later. Arloa, welcome back to the great state of Colorado. I hope you brought your passport because this is a foreign country compared to the beautiful Republic of Texas. And be safe here, Arloa. Be very, very safe. Jared Polis has a crime-riddled cesspool that he has created that we have to live among. So Arloa, be very, very careful because the minions of the Democrat Party and the evil, violent left populate our state and they roam among us. Be careful, Arloa. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to wrap it up. If you'd like to be in contact with us, you want to be a part of the program in any way, maybe you'd like to be a sponsor of the show, we'd love to have you do that. You can do so at, just go to advertise with us, info@jimmylakey.com, info@jimmylakey.com, info@jimmylakey.com. Say it with me, info@jimmylakey.com. Some of you send us memes on that email address. We appreciate that as well. Everybody, don't forget, donate riverspromise.org, riverspromise.com. Pleasure to be here, my friends. Glad to have you here. Thanks for being with us today. Until we meet again tomorrow, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. May God bless you. May God bless America. I am Jimmy Lakey. Peace. I'm out.